Hey, hello everyone. It's Dr. Sue here, and it is a great joy to be connecting with you again for the short answer. So, welcome to the short answer. The short answer sometimes is short, sometimes it's kind of, long short, but I just want to share with you always the things that are in the environment, that are in our consciousness, and that are ready to rise. And so, our short answer this time is about rising. It is about allow to happen through you what is here to happen through you. I just had a lovely conversation this afternoon with a group of spiritual best practitioners that have been learning through the energy codes work and best technique how to implement the infusion of our highest consciousness right into this body and out into this world. And one of the things that I'm always mentioning to our practitioners and our facilitators, as well as all of our community members, is that we are the universe. We are the universe itself, compressed into a funnel, compressed into a channel that is descending to the earth. It is hitting the earth, and we are rising in turn. And the objective of our lives is to learn to rise up through this life experience without distorting the perfection of spiritual energy that is dropping in, that is descending into this body system that we are. And so as we learn how to stop hiding, or to stop being defensive, or to stop thinking that life is against us and that we have to guard and protect ourselves, and to start allowing creative essence to flow through us, and to trust our guts and to follow our heart's content. As we're learning to do those things, we're starting to rise with a greater sense of perfection. And that perfection, not perfectionism, that perfection is the energy that is descending to the planet. So we're going to talk about that in our short answer coming up in just a few moments. And I want to share with you some beautiful experiences I've had even in the last 24 hours, including participating in filming for a documentary, and also having the great honor of being in the presence with 75 other women last evening with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So I'll be sharing with you some things about that as we get into our short answer. But first, I have to announce a few things, of course, that are coming our way. This is one way that we can stay connected and you can stay apprised of the things that are happening and coming up at Morter Institute without opening more emails and having to read, etc. And so we like to gather here and just connect and feel the juice with one another. And so I want to share with you a couple of things, all right? So one of the things that is coming up is in just a few moments, this is coming up fast, is the masterclass. It is this evening starting at the half hour, and we're going to go for an hour diving deep into some beautiful conversation that you get to dictate. So you ask me a bunch of questions, I put a bunch of pictures up on a poster board, and then we tie them all together, and I get to show you how all of our questions are interwoven because we are actually interwoven ourselves, and we are actually part of one being. And I don't want that to just be a principle or a concept for humanity anymore. I want us to learn how to utilize that as our true self, because there is so much more power to draw from in any project that we're doing if we allow ourselves to be that one being, to be that the bigness of our true self. So you might want to plug into that. It's the masterclass, and there will be a link in the chat here on our Facebook Live that you can connect with so that you can join us with the masterclass. And I hope to see you there. It's a deep, rich, fun experience that we get to have together. And then also, of course, Wednesday, April 28th, is another one of our monthly healing transmissions, which I'm having an amazing experience with, sharing this transmitting of energy into this one being and connecting in a new way. In fact, this month I'm going to be enhancing things that are developing inside the coursework right now on an experiential level. So do join us for the free monthly healing transmission Wednesday, the 28th. And it is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So I look forward to sharing that with you. There are some aspects of healing that are unspeakable, that it is beyond the spoken word. It is beyond thought, actually. It is simply by setting an intention and releasing and surrendering ourselves down into that intention and allowing the re-emergence of the true soulful self and its connective capacity. with all other soulful selves on the planet. So it's time for us to make this very practical and very applied in our lives, to not just have a spiritual study, but to have a life uncommon. And that is what we're doing inside of everything that we're doing with Morter Institute. So there also is, I wanted to remind you of the BodyAwake Yoga membership. The BodyAwake membership class is Thursday. The next one is Thursday, May 6th. It's 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and I cannot emphasize enough the benefits of you coming to the mat with the intention of anchoring the consciousness in the core of this body, because that is why you came. If you're wondering what your life purpose is, it is to awaken to your true magnificence, but it is to do so through the full embodiment of that magnificence. When you embody it here, then you are fully holy here, and you get to have the experience of the power to make decisions, and the power to collaborate, and the power to be free to love without guardedness and protectivisms. And so we're here to weave that together and to support one another and to find that loving place of compassion and self-trust, self-worth, and self-love. Okay, so BodyAwake Yoga membership is one of the fastest ways I know to engage in that integration. So check that out with us. You can do that by going to bodyawakeyogamembership.com. I know that was probably shocking. That's how you get to the BodyAwake Yoga membership. You go to bodyawakeyogamembership.com. Go figure. All right, can we make it any easier for you? All right, and then lastly, there is also the BodyAwake School of Yoga Teacher Certification Program that we are in the process of launching. Whether you want to take that for personal growth or for teacher certification, this class is going to take you through each asana and teach you how to do it correctly, so that as you're starting to enliven this soulful essence in the deep core of your system that is the true you, and it wants to animate itself by moving into this body and to its fullest. When you know the yoga asanas that the energy is trying to move the system into because of how it activates all of the aspects of your consciousness by doing so, then you can facilitate that process as it is trying to birth through you. So let me make that simple for you. Okay, here's what happens. When high consciousness lands in the body changes its shape. It wants to move into certain geometrical shapes that are of the fourth and fifth dimension. And when that is happening, it is happening because the fourth and fifth dimensional versions of your own consciousness are finally getting a place to live, a place to dwell, a place to cultivate and integrate with one another. And so a byproduct of that is we start having a greater access to universal intelligence. In fact, the universal mind becomes our mind. And we are taking our sacred texts off the shelf and we are living into them as if they were meant to be lived into, because they were. And so as we do this, everything begins to change in our lives. We have a trust in the universe and the way things go, and we don't doubt ourselves, and we don't get frenetic, and we don't get analytical, and we don't get so structured that we lose sight of the soul. It's just not an option any longer in our world. And so the yoga teacher training, the school of yoga, is so that you can, it's not just a yoga teacher training, it's the yoga training, the BodyAwake yoga training. And through that, you can also become certified as a teacher. But my main development and purpose for bringing this course forward is so that you can learn how to support your own descension into this body with grace and ease. And you can allow this to flow in your life the way that it was intended to. If we were raised in indigenous cultures and still in touch with what matters most in the world as our highest priority in our societies, we would all be knowing how to do this automatically. But because we kind of got ahead of ourselves, we kind of put the cart before the horse in many ways in our development as a species, that every so often our technology and our thinking world and our manifest physicality gets out ahead of our ability to really embrace what we're capable of. We invent things that we can't handle responsibly because we haven't developed emotionally and spiritually along the same speed with which we have developed in our manifesting and technology departments. And so I'm just here to help you bring it all together, because when all of those aspects of you are working together, you have a different life. I can tell you as a testament to my own life experience that this is absolutely true. In fact, it isn't that I walk my talk. It is that I talk my walk. And that's what makes it so coherent and congruent for those that are studying. So I invite you into the coursework of the energy codes. We'll be launching a level 1 very soon. And in the meantime, these other ways that you can stay engaged and plug in to truly developing your presence on this earth and understanding why you're here and what it is that you're supposed to be doing and not doing while you are here, so that you get to have the experience that you signed up for at the bus stop. All right. So if you haven't read the book, then you might not know what the bus stop means. So pick up the Energy Codes book, 7-Step System to Awakening the Spirit and Healing the Body and Living Your Best Life. It is chock full of guidance for you. Okay, so I want to talk to you about the short answer that I have just kind of dropped in today. And as I mentioned earlier, I had the wonderful opportunity of meeting with His Holiness the Dalai Lama with 75 other women, many of which were part of a women's initiative and bringing forth this feminine voice in the world. And it's not just about women, it's about the feminine, the divine feminine. It's about the principle of comprehensiveness. It's about the principle of everyone wins and everyone is nurtured. And it is because we care, and we care because we can care, because we're not afraid, because we're not trying to conquer and achieve, but we certainly achieve greatly as a byproduct of understanding this bigger picture. And so this women's initiative is brought forward by people who have won Nobel Prizes. Okay? I was with Nobel Prize laureates in this conversation. My dear friend Marcy Shimoff is part of that initiative and is always doing everything that she can to help facilitate the energy codes coming out into the world in its fullness, and this message being able to reach as many people as possible. And so there I was in this beautiful setting, in this sacred setting. And as I was sharing with our practitioners this afternoon, there was, I see energy, and there was a most magnificent array of energies, a rainbow of a potpourri of a smorgasbord of energies that were just flowing off of everyone that was in this gathering. And it was because they were allowing the presence of holiness to be the central focus of their attention. And their heart and their soul and their wisdom and their mind were all aligned simultaneously in a deep state of reverence, which is deeper than gratitude and appreciation. Gratitude and appreciation are aspects of our personality that we have to recall so that we can stay connected to, a bigger picture. But this is a deeper version of you, the version of you that has reverence, that reveres something with the wholeness of your being, that understands that living in truth and breathing the truth through your system is as holy as it gets. And that we are each made of this holiness is why Morter Institute exists, is to teach people to realize that, to remind them of this, to bring it together and awaken it on a deep, soulful level. And so as I was witnessing this group of people simultaneously allowing reverence to be all that was, they didn't decide to revere, they simply did, because of an understanding that they have about an individual who is carrying a tremendous amount of wisdom, who's been being raised and formulated and cultivated since before he was 6 years old to hold this space for humanity. And therefore, his mind, his thinking mind, which has been supported in his role all of his life, can remain still in many ways that the average individual has not been able to remain in still faith, confidence, and belief that we are okay, that we are whole, that this whole thing that we're going through is some sort of divine design. And so when most of humanity has been busy scraping itself back from the splat, busying the mind, and then falsely believing that the busy mind is what allowed them to gather back together again, only because it has more potency, it has more flash to it, this mind that we have. When in actuality, the only thing in your life that has ever healed anything has been the action of the heart. And the mind's best job that it can do is align itself to the heart. And when that happens, it allows you to rise. And the reason that I'm tying these two things together is because His Holiness spoke of a very important presence. We were able to ask him questions, and his responses were noted, and everyone was just holding on, the words that were being spoken. And he spoke to the voice of the woman. And it wasn't in my ears the voice of the woman, but it was the voice of the divine feminine, the voice of this comprehensive essence that each of us has. In fact, some men carry it on the surface of their life even more so than some of the women that I know. So it isn't about male and female, it's about masculine and feminine energy. And we are here to honor and to revere the harmony between these energies. And we have been raised in a culture where we are pushing the river with the masculine energy far too much, to the point that the mind has become deceptive and self-deceptive. It has become delusional in all of the things that have been generated in our culture as a byproduct of living identified as the mind, not connected to the body, heart, and soul. And so this divine masculine is out of proportion, and it leads to bullying, and it leads to prejudice, and it leads to supremacy, and it leads to not thinking that we are all equal. Not only do Black lives matter, brown lives matter, and Asian lives matter, and Indian, indigenous peoples of all colors and shapes and sizes matter. And of course, this is the truth that we are trying to recover in our consciousness as a species. And it is happening, and it will happen. It will have to happen because nature abhors a vacuum, and the universe will not allow and tolerate. As enough of this soulful self rises, it will not allow for the illusional surface personalities to continue to operate by suppressing and diverting and deflecting things and not owning this beautiful presence that we each are. And so, as the Dalai Lama was speaking about the feminine voice, the voice of the divine feminine is what I was hearing. And I wanted to share with you that the message was rise, lead, do not now hesitate. It is your time. It is the time on the planet for you to come out of hiding, to come out of thinking that your words don't matter enough, to come out from thinking that the ideas in your heart and in your mind that are rising to your awareness, that you would even imagine them, that they would even occur to you, they need to be nurtured. They need to be revered. We need to approach them with the same kind of reverence that we would if the Buddha were to walk into the room, the same kind of reverence as if the Christed being was standing before you and asking you, what are you here for? What might you want to contribute? And may I help you do that? If that were happening, would you be prepared to say, this is it, or to even feel into it? You don't even have to have the words, but you must know who you are. And if you are wrestling with that at this time, at this moment in your life, then I strongly suggest that you join us in the masterclass. You come to the healing transmissions and you look me up on YouTube, or better yet, you come into the coursework as soon as you can and be trained. Allow your mind to be trained on how to support and steward this rising soulful self. Because the action step from His Holiness last evening, in the presence of you being represented inside of this conversation, the beautiful spiritual best practitioners that I was working with this afternoon, they got it. They dropped in. We had a beautiful experience of allowing it to be true for each of us personally, that it is our personal invitation to allow a little bit more of your bigness to come out, a little bit more bigness to be associated with your shyness or your intimidation or your withholding or your hesitancy, just to allow a little bit more of okayness and permission to have been granted. Because I watched 75 people last night in this beautiful, sweet, intimate conversation, open to the divine with reverence. The key that turned the lock that opened these rainbows coming off of everyone was reverence. Reverence. To be immersed in that reverence till it even becomes reverie. that you're not confined to holding steadfast and trying to do things right, but that you dissolve yourself into the bliss of reverence, the bliss of the divine. Inside your life experience, the bliss of the divine rises like an inspiration. It's like, wow, wouldn't it be great if we could this or we could that? Now, what if you were to take those things more seriously? If you were to honor them just a little bit more, start to listen this month for yourself saying, wouldn't it be great if we could, or even someone may be suggesting something to you that you retract from and you think, oh, I could never. Oh, who am I to do this or to do that? Notice your responses, those bodily, physiological thoughts and words, all of it collectively are showing signs of your attempt to rise and your resistance to letting it happen. The resistance that we see in our outer world right now that shows up like friction, that shows up like abuse, that shows up like the inequities that are so clearly before us. Those are outpicturings of this subtle version, this refined and subtle version of the exact same thing happening inside of you. It is happening when a part of you wants to be equal to the parts of you that you're already good at and practiced at and rehearsed at and comfortable with. And there are these other parts of you that just want the same chance. They just want to breathe the same air. They just want to have permission to sit at the same table. Does it sound familiar? You bet it does. Because we wouldn't be seeing the things on the news that we're seeing. We wouldn't be engaging in these deeply meaningful conversations of conflict and how do we solve them if it wasn't being birthed from a collective of us over a long period of time and suppressed for such a long period of time that the momentum is bursting out. And the acting out of this suppression is costing lives at this time. And that is not okay. It is also costing each of us the lives that we could be living, even if you don't practice prejudice and you don't find yourself making bigoted statements or thinking bigoted thoughts, and you don't cast a judgment instantly as soon as something isn't going the way that you would like it to go, even if that isn't what's happening for you. If there is the subtle suppression of a part of you that just wants an equal opportunity, to begin again, to have a do-over, to allow life to be mine, to have permission to be free. And there's another part of you that is saying, no, that's not for you. No, that's not okay. We have to master these tiny battles so that we don't have to live these larger ones. It's been going on for far too long, and we have the power to transform it. But we cannot only march. We also have to drop in and ask ourselves, at what subtle level am I suppressing the rising of my own true nature? To whatever degree I am doing that, we must surrender. We must surrender and allow for a greater truth to run through us. Because I'd like to lastly just remind you, you are the universe. If I haven't mentioned that before, you are the universe compressing itself into a funnel, compressing itself and descending as a channel, hitting the earth and rising. And the only thing that keeps you from rising as freely as the unified field is itself is the judgment that you have already cast as a literal way of being, the internal judgment, the self-judgment, the self-compartmentalization, the separate selfingness that you've been doing since you got here. It turns out it's not true. And I'd love to help you find all the ways that this rising is meant to be and is your destiny. Please don't wait for the last 5 minutes of your life for that to be true. It will be then, so no pressure. It will be then. As you're making your final exit, it will be, wow. Yes, we know, has been spoken. It happens that way as soon as the mind doesn't have the ability to continue to contain you. So why not do what you came here to do? Master the mind and allow it to serve you instead of control you. And as we learn to do that, life changes and we rise. We rise to meet the vibrational frequency of love that our neighbors are. And as we meet in that way, we merge. And when we merge, we only then begin to experience the truth of who we are. So, my friends, this month, please allow yourselves to rise. His Holiness the Dalai Lama was speaking this right into our very questions last evening as well. And allow reverence to be directed to yourself in the same manner that you would be directing it to His Holiness or to the Buddha or to the Christed being or anything else that you find more sacred than you. Please allow the inkling, the seed, the cracking open of the possibility that that could include you too, fully and wholly, for it is the truth of who you are. It's been a great joy to spend this time with you this evening. As always, much love. I look forward to plugging into a juicy masterclass in just a few moments. We'll see you at the bottom of the hour. Much love to you. Namaste.